Namaskar. Friends, last week, a student from a central university asked me whether I can name 10 major books in sociology. Very difficult job to do because sociology is now a very well established discipline. And not only in America and Europe, but also in most universities in India, it is taught independently and with lots of sub-disciplines within. So naming just 10 books is an extremely difficult task for me, but I'm trying. And in this short video, I will try to name those 10 books which I have used in teaching introductory course in sociology at IIT Kanpur, and which have also been of great help to me in teaching other courses in sociology. So, friends, I'm sharing my screen, and these 10 books of sociology are then as follows. First of all, I would like to name a book by Alex Inkeles. The title of the book is What is Sociology? An Introduction to the Discipline and Profession. This book was published in 1964 by Prentice-Hall of India, and it has been of a great help to me, particularly its first 3-4 chapters in understanding the subject matter of sociology. It deals with who are the founding fathers of sociology. He named 4: Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer, Emile Durkheim, and Max Weber. Some people may like to add Karl Marx's name also, that you can do, but this book includes these 4 names. And then it talks about subject matter of sociology. How do we determine what sociology is about, and what do various ways of determining the subject tell us about nature of sociology, and how does sociology differ? It answers the question, how does sociology differ from other related disciplines like psychology, economics, political science, anthropology, etc. The book also covers models of society, sociological models of society, and sociological models of man. And it talks about the interaction between sociology, values, and politics. That can sociology be a value-free, value-neutral science, or it interacts with value systems of the larger society. The second book I would name is Kingsley Davis's Human Society. It's an old book now, and I don't think many students read this book now, but it's a very good book. Let me tell you, it's amazing. You learn so much about society and sociological conception of man from this book uh, uh, that no other book can replace this book. I still, in teaching various types of courses, I still consult this book, and it deals with the nature of human society and humans as social beings, the normative structure of society, beautifully done. The treatment of normative structure in this book is very good, it's excellent. You develop a clear understanding of what are various norms of society, folkways, mores, etiquettes, laws, various types of laws, customs, traditions, and so on, and social institutions and social structure. If you want to have a very clear understanding of what social institutions mean and what social structure is, this book is to be read. And then it also talks about social stratification. You must have read about functional theory of social stratification developed by Wilbert Moore and Kingsley Davis. This was published in 40s, and there has been a lot of criticism of this theory also by Marxists, by critical school, by other schools. But if you want to understand, if you want to answer the question that although we do not want to have inequality in society, but why is it that social inequality or social stratification is ubiquitous? It is found in all societies. then you must read the treatment of social stratification in this book. And I was a demographer, and I find chapters on dynamics of population growth and the nature of demographic transition also very good in this book. The third book I will suggest is T.B. Bottomore's Sociology, a guide to problems and literature. This was published in 1962, and first edition of this book, Indian edition, was published in 1972. Very important book. It tells you about the history, theory, and methods of sociology, especially the survey method. Why did survey method develop in sociology? What were the objectives of doing sociological research? How does it relate to ending certain problems of society like poverty, unemployment, etc., etc.? And then it also talks about social institutions, various types of institutions in society, family, marriage, economic institution, state. It covers all the social institutions and the idea of social control. This book also tells us about differences between social change, development, and progress. How social change differs from development and progress. The question of values enter the discourse again. Now, since this is not the time to go deeper into all these issues, I'm only naming 10 books, so I'm ignoring that part. But you can find the discussion of change, development, and progress in this book very interesting and very clear, simple, lucid. Then you have social policy and social planning. You can read this book for social policy, understanding of social policy and social planning, and for defining what social problems are. All of us in sociology struggle with various kinds of social problems. But what are social problems? How can a problem be called a social problem? To answer that question, you can read this book. Then the fourth book I would name is the book Industrial Sociology, written by Miller and Form. The title of the book is Industrial Sociology, so it appears as though this book does not talk about sociology in general, but it talks about industrial sociology. The subtitle is The Sociology of Work Organization. I have been interacting with management departments, and when I teach a course on management, general management, or leadership, motivation, authority, then I still read this book. I have read this book number of times, and I still read this book. It talks about nature of industrial society. It talks about social forces that influence individual behavior at workplace. It talks about organizational structure, the treatment of formal and informal structure of industry are very good. And then industrial relations and the roles of trade unions. And it also covers major theories of leadership. Some of you who are familiar with some theories of leadership in psychology, trait approach, social relations approach, scientific theories, and postmodern theories of leadership, they will benefit immensely from reading of this book. So major theories of leadership and motivation, starting from scientific theory to modern social relations approach, you find all major theories covered in this book. So that book is important for sociology of organization and for students of management. Now, one book which is used in teaching sociology in so many universities in India and abroad is M. Haralambas's book, Sociology, Themes and Perspectives. A number of editions of this book have come up. The edition which I have with me is 47th impression, published in 2015. It's a very important book for graduate students of sociology. If you are doing BA or MA in sociology, I will recommend that you must necessarily read this book. The major contribution of this book is to establish the importance of different perspectives in sociology. And the three major perspectives discussed in this book are functionalism, Marxism, and symbolic interactionism. So what this book does, it explains various theories of different types of institutions. It talks about industry, it talks about state, it talks about education, it talks about religion, everything, all social institutions. And it tells how will functionalists look at them, how will Marxists look at them, and how will symbolic interactionists look at them. A terrific book. I'm highly impressed by the writings of Haralambous. Later on, Haralambous and Holborn, they produced a book, Sociology, Theories and Perspectives. It's a book to be read by PhD students in sociology. It provides a detailed understanding of nature of sociology, its theories and perspectives on different institutions and processes. But this book is more suitable for the advanced study of society. It's up to date. So you also find discussion of globalization and postmodernity. This book also talks about social institutions in all the three perspectives as the original book of Haralambous does, and includes chapters on methodology and methods, and all major theories of sociology as developed by R.K. Merton in functionalism, Marxism, phenomenology, and ethnomethodology are covered. You will develop a sound understanding of all these theories if you go through this book. Friends, the next book I would say is Anthony Giddens. Actually, it is written jointly by Anthony Giddens and Philip. Sociology. Title of the book is, name of the book is Sociology, and there are so many editions. The edition which I have with me now is 8th edition, which was published by Polity in 2017. This book covers sociological imagination. It starts with the idea of sociological imagination, asking and answering sociological questions. What questions are sociological and how are they answered? It also talks about theories and perspective. You must have known Giddens' name as one who gives the famous theory of structuration. Neither methodological individualism nor purely structuralism. Actually, and he combines the two, methodological individualism and structuralism, the idea of agency and structure, into his theory of structuration. He is writing this book and he is commenting on various aspects of society. So this book also talks about theories and perspectives as other basic books of sociology do. It talks about social institutions, but some new topics that you will learn in this book, in this edition, are urbanization and environment. These topics are relatively new topics, and in older books of sociology, as of Alex Inkeles or Kingsley Davis, you do not find a good treatment of these subjects. Then there are new issues such as health, gender, and sexuality, the media, the war and terrorism, and this book of Giddens covers all these topics. So if you want to be updated into what kind of writings are taking place in sociology in all these areas, not only the older types of institutional and theoretical works, but also urbanization, globalization, environment, health, gender, sexuality, and war and terrorism. There are not many basic books in sociology which will cover war and terrorism. So you must read this book. Friends, once you have understood the subject matter of sociology and you want something theoretical, something more advanced, then one book I would recommend is Turner's book, Theoretical Sociology, 1830 to the present. It was published by Sage in 2013. And this is an advanced book in theory. To understand the essays covered in this book, one certainly requires some grounding in theory, some clarity about the concepts of sociology, and some basic grounding in theory. Before reading this book, therefore, you should be in a position to read a piece of dense theoretical writing in sociology. This book contains writing from all major theoretical perspectives in sociology, starting from positivism of Comte to the postmodern critique of science, including Lyotard, Rorty, Harvey, and Baudrillard. So these you do not learn anything about these writers in the early works in sociology, in Alex Inkeles or Kingsley Davis or Bottomore or others. These are new issues. These issues, and these are new writers. These writers made a contribution in the last quarter of the last century. So they are not covered there. But if you read this book, you can learn about them. You can also become familiar with the writings of Scott Lash and John Urey. I think if you want to understand the global and postmodern social phenomena, or you want to understand what is happening to society, social structure, relationship between individual and society, and you want to understand uh, sociology beyond society, then this is the book to be read, apart from other books of John Urey or others. This book covers phenomenological solipsism, hermeneutical dualism, and scientific politics. Now, again, this is not the time to go deeper into these concepts, but obviously the terms solipsism, hermeneutics, and scientific are clear to you, and you will go deeper into these concepts in dealing with modern and postmodern theories. And this book also covers a critical discourse on that. Then, if you want some Indian material, one of the best books of sociology produced by an Indian, is this Andre Beteille's book Sociology, with a subtitle Essays on Approach and Method. This book was published in 2002 by Oxford India Paperback. At least this is a copy which I have with me. And it's useful for students of sociology in India, especially for sociology and common sense, for the relationship between sociology and common sense. How does sociology differ from common sense? Quite often, our students of sociology think that they understand enough about society, because the terms that we are using in making connections in sociology, religion, family, politics, or economic status or gender, these are the terms used by everyone, even laymen, in journalistic writings and in novels, in fictional works, in poetry. So people think that they know about them. But what are sociological meanings, or how do we approach these things, these terms sociologically, and how does that differ from common sense, is well covered by this book. Then sociology and current affairs. And how does sociology help in understanding current affairs? And what is the standpoint of the investigator? There is very good discussion about that. There is a good discussion about science and tradition, something ignored by many earlier books in sociology. And what is new in sociological inquiry? So if you are looking for a book that covers these things, then you read Andre Beteille's Sociology. Now, sociology has not only a theoretical value, it's also applied. Sociology is useful for social work. Sociology is useful for policy making. Sociology is useful for studying concrete social problems. And if you want to know how are specific issues pertaining to society are dealt with in a sociological framework, you must read Kevin White's book. And the title of the book is An Introduction to the Sociology of Health and Illness. Now, what this book does, this is an important book for those who want to understand how sociology is applied to study social issues, and it focuses on health. But in studying other things also, you may be a student of later on you want to pursue education, sociology of education. You want to pursue sociology of industry. You want to pursue sociology of religion. In those things also, the approach adopted in this book will immensely help, because you will know how does an applied sociologist examine social issues. So this book is useful for to understand how sociology helps in studying a social phenomenon, to have a clear understanding of Parsonian, Weberian, symbolic interactionist, Marxist, and postmodernist approaches to health. Now, once you understand what is Parsonian about health, or what is Weberian, or what is symbolic interactionist, or Marxist, or postmodernist, you can use those ideas and those concepts in understanding other themes of sociology as well. So I will say that even if you are not doing sociology of health, I think you should read this book. It also covers liberal, radical, and Marxist feminism. So you may have heard about feminism, but there are varieties of feminism. And these days we also talk of the concept of intersectionality, which means that the world cannot be seen as divided into two categories, men and women. Actually, condition of women and their thinking and their approaches to women's problems or social problems in general depend on many other things, because women's consciousness or women's conditions or women's approaches interact with caste, ethnicity, race, class, urban rural differences, and many other types of differences. So this book covers that aspect, that you become more sensitive. By reading this book, you become more sensitive to liberal, radical, and Marxist feminism. You can have other varieties of feminism also, because this concept of intersectionality says that there cannot be one feminism, one dominant feminism. Feminism interacts with caste, class, ethnicity, race, etc., etc. And this book also helps you in understanding how the lenses of race and ethnicity can contribute to study of a concrete social phenomenon. It may be poverty, it may be unemployment, it may be social integration or disintegration or deviance or anything else. So how the lenses of race and ethnicity help us in understanding these issues. This book is of great help in that. The 10th and the last book I would recommend is a different type of book. It's a book by Madrigal on statistics for anthropologists. And the second edition of this book, published by Cambridge University Press, was published in 2012. This is the edition that I have with me. If you want to become a practitioner, a sociological practitioner, you must learn the science and art of applied sociology, acceptable to the scientific community. Here you learn about, sociology has to be done scientifically, in the sense that it has to, your sociology, the sociology that you are doing, your work, your reports, your data, your theories, have to be acceptable to the community of sociologists and government, civil society organization, society at large. And for that, you have to follow certain norms of scientific community. And you may not believe in positivism, okay, but that is a theoretical stance. Symbolic interactionists, ethnomethodologists, etc., etc. They are theoretical standpoints. But unless you are familiar with the scientific approach in sociology, it will be difficult. Unfortunately, in our country, students are not taught about statistics in the discipline of sociology. But if you want to publish good papers in international journals of sociology, if you want to interact with government, NGOs, civil society organizations, if you want to do some social work, if you want to take a monitoring and evaluation kind of study, to do good study, you will have to learn something about the nature of scientific inquiry, which is the subject of this book. Scaling and measurement. You talk about poverty, you have to measure poverty. You talk about development, you have to measure development. You have to measure achievements in the field of development. You talk about sustainable development, so some index of sustainable development has to be developed. You talk about human development. These days, governments and NGOs talk, and even sociologists of development talk about human development index at the national level, state level, district level. You must know something about how are these indices constructed. Then descriptive statistics. Descriptive is the mean, mode, median, etc., etc. This book also covered the basic ideas of probability and statistical inference, including non-parametric methods. Statistical inference is divided into two types of statistical inferences, parametric and non-parametric. And this book, for certain data, for certain types of data, for certain issues, for and also depending on sample size, sometimes you go for parametric methods, sometimes you may have to depend on non-parametric methods. So it covers both, and it also covers some topics in advanced regression analysis. Friends, students of Indian sociology would also benefit from the following books. Gisbert's book, Fundamentals of Sociology. I have used this book frequently in teaching course Introduction to Sociology. Then Yogesh Attal's book, Sociology and Social Anthropology in India. You know that sociology in India is rooted deeply into anthropological traditions. So this book can be of immense help to you for studies of rural and agrarian studies, for Indian diaspora, development, and law. There is an old book by Mandelbaum, Society in India. Although it is an old book, but I still consult this book if I have to read something on family, kinship, caste, religious and tribal movements, and tribal changes that are taking place in tribal society. And what are the continuities and discontinuities in social change among tribals in India. There is a text by Broom and Selznick, Sociology, a text with adapted readings. I find this book also to be very attractive, and I have used this book in teaching courses in sociology. Topics are same as covered by other textbooks of sociology, but it's more detailed. You have a more detailed discussion in this book of all the topics. I would say that in addition to textbooks or reference books in sociology, it will be good if you go through International Encyclopedia of the Social Behavioral Sciences, International Encyclopedia of Sociology, Oxford Dictionary of Sociology, which is available on internet. It's freely available. International Encyclopedia of the Social Sciences, this is also freely available on net. Whenever I look for something like, if I'm teaching a course on social movement, I want to have a basic understanding. I want to understand the concept of social movement. And first thing I do is go to Oxford Dictionary of Sociology. I had a printed version of that, but now it is freely available on internet, so you need not worry about having a printed copy. Similarly, International Encyclopedia of the Social Sciences, very useful for any topic. You want demographic topics, you want religious topics, you want economic topics, you want something on leadership or agrarian relations or urbanization. You find basic concepts and their discussions with great clarity on net. And this is what I wanted to say. So friends, I have named 10 books. I have used these books. I'm not saying that these are the best books in sociology. You may be reading from some other book, but I'm 100% sure that if you read these 10 books, then you become a very good sociologist. Very good, not just good. You become a very good sociologist if you read these books and assimilate what is given in these books. So there are some of introductory nature, some of theoretical nature. There is one book of applied nature in which sociology is applied to health, and another book which is on statistics. Statistics? I stress statistics because otherwise, what I find that in absence of good understanding of statistics, our students of sociology, PhD students, students writing their MA thesis or practicing sociologists write lots of sociological reports, and they without knowing they use descriptive statistics, and without understanding how can they make their report or their PhD thesis or MPhil thesis sociological. In one of my previous videos, I had mentioned what is sociological, what is non-sociological. Sociological, as I said, is the study of something from the perspective of class, gender, and ethnicity. And when you relate something to class, gender, or ethnicity, or anything to anything else, then you need the science of measurements, you need the science of relating. If you want to relate something to something else, you need a science of relating. And that science of relating comes from your reading of some basic book in statistics. Thank you, friends. So these are my 10 books. I think the student who asked me this question, if he sees this video, he will be quite satisfied. Thank you.